All right, good morning. My name is Specialist Elijah Farmer. I will be conducting y'all's training for today. We're going to be going over measuring distance on a map. I have two visual aids here for you, two maps. One is of Blanding Army Airfield, that is a 1 in 75,000 map, and this is Alabama. It is Fort Rucker down here. So this is just a map of Alabama. It's a 1 in 50,000. So this is the one that we're going to be using today. I brought this one just as another visual aid to show you what some other maps might look like. In the aid that we are given today, the 071-COM-1008, it states that there are 4 different types of maps. The 1 in 25,000, the 1 in 250,000, the 1 in 50,000, and the 1 in 100,000. So today we're going to be using the 1 in 50,000. But I have my resources here today. So I have the deliberate risk assessment. So let me start by saying that the overall risk assessment is low for today. Just be mindful of tripping hazards, sharp corners, trips and falls, things like that. Make sure that there's no uneven ground and just stay safe while you're learning and using the resources that have been provided. We have our conditions and standards and our topic. I have an outline here for us today. I also have another outline here just to help me stay on track. I have our full instructions for the class in case we have a hookup and need to answer any questions. I have a sign-in sheet that I'm going to go ahead and hand out. Here you go. You can have that. Once that sign-in sheet's complete, go ahead and just circle that around and bring it back, and then I'll write the results and stuff like that on that as well. So, without further ado, the resources that have been laid in front of you are, of course, a 1 in 50,000 map. You're going to have to share that between 2 people. We have straight edges, which otherwise known as a flat piece of paper. Make sure you use the flat side, not the cut side. And we have our writing utensil, which is pen or pencil, preferably pencil. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to look over our topic and condition and standards. So I'm just going to read through that real quick. The topic, this training is basically just to measure a distance on a map. So that's what we're going to be going over today. Conditions, you are a member of a squad or team in a field environment. You have been directed to determine the distance between 2 known points. You have a 1 in 50,000 scale map, a strip of paper, like I handed out. You should have that on your desk. Which will be your straight edge. You will also have a pencil or writing utensil. You have been shown the beginning and the ending points on the map. Some iterations of this task should be performed in Mop 4. Alright, so what we're going to be using today on your map is you're going to look down here. You're going to see Fort Rucker. This is where the little airfield is. You're going to be looking there. It's an aviation base, so we're going to be looking strictly at this area right here, this little green circle. I'm going to bring the camera in forward just so you can see what we're looking at on the map. So we're going to be looking at this right here. We're going to start at this point and we're going to measure right here. That's going to be our straight line. So we're going to measure that bottom of this airfield right here. For our curved line, we're going to go here and then make our way up and follow this side. So we're going to do this entire side for the curve and we're going to do this line for the straight. Nice and easy. You know where the block is. All right, we're going to put you back. All right. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start. If you can, we're going to start by, we already described the maps. So you know that this is a 1 in 50,000. This is a 1 in 75,000. It's a little bit less common. This one has more topographical features. You can see how this one is just kind of blank. Has known points and stuff like that. That's more for aviation than it is for terrain and map guidance. So for this, we're going to go ahead and look at our area. If you will, look at the bottom and you'll see some lines here. This is your measuring point. It has different points of measuring on it. You have kilometers, you have statute miles, and nautical miles. Let me look on here real quick and I can get the actual name for you. Oh, yeah, it's called a primary scale. The little dash lines on the end are called your extended scale. That's what you use if you have something that's not quite falling onto an exact statute mile or nautical mile or kilometers. So if you need to go in depth on kilometers and you need to get the actual meters of it, then you can just move it to the left and get the rest of the notations. Anyway, we'll get to that point because we will get there. I have pre-measured everything on here so I can check y'all's work while you're doing it with me. While I'm explaining it, please feel free to go ahead and mark and strip the instructions that I'm saying, and then I'm going to go through and check you guys out, give you some tips and tricks on how to solve that before we have to then evaluate you at the end. Evaluations will happen after we summarize everything that we just taught today, and then I'll go through and check if all of you guys are a go or a no-go. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start down here at the bottom left point of this airfield where that green corner hits right there. All right, what you're going to do, take your paper or your straight edge, and what I want you to do is come up to that map, pick a random point, line it up with your straight edge. Can you still see me? Yep. All right. So what you're going to, actually, let me move this. I'm going to move this over a little bit so you can see me a little better. All right. Pick a random point. What you're going to do is you're going to line that up nice and straight with the line. You're going to take your straight edge, just like this. Mark that corner. Go a little bit onto the map, that way you see black on both sides to make sure that you got it straight. Keep it in the same spot. Go to the other side, your second point, and do the same. Go right through the center of that point that you want to graph. Now take it off. You have these two markings on your piece of paper. Slide it down. We're going to do it in kilometers, okay? So we're going to start with that. Bring it to the 0 on the kilometer scale and go over. See how it doesn't quite reach the 2 kilometer? So what you're going to do is you're going to take this second dot, slide it all the way over to the 1, and look at where you're at. See how there are 5 and there should be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 different dotted areas that you have to choose from. So clearly if you split that in half, you have a 500 marker and you have a 1,000 meter marker. So you can see that when we're exactly on the 1, we're hitting about the 9 dash mark. So that's going to be about 900 meters. So we know that we already have 1 full kilometer, which is going to be approximately 1,000 meters. So if you add 900 meters with 1,000 meters, you're going to get 1,900 meters or 1.9 kilometers. So let's go ahead and write those measurements down. So we have 1,900 meters and we have 1.9 kilometers. Now let's go ahead and get that in statute miles while we're here. Go ahead and put it at 0 and line it up. We're still not quite getting that 1 on the statute miles that we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide it over to the 1 and look at the extended scale. We are just about hitting the second dotted marker. And since this one is in half and in a mile, well, you got to think, it's got to be in a point system, right? So there are 10 points for this mile, 5 being the half. So since we're at 2 points deep, it's just going to be 1.2 statute miles. So go ahead and put 1.2 statute miles. Now, let's go 1 slide down to the nautical mile side, and let's measure nautical miles. All right, put it at your 0 and go. You're a little bit past the 1, just a smidge. So what you're gonna do is bring it over left and go. And see, you're just a little bit further past the 0. I would say you're probably at a 1.3 to a 1.5. So you're not quite at a 0.1 actually, so you're at a 0.5. So I would say 0.3 or 0.5. So it's going to be 1.03 or 1.05. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put 0.03 nautical miles. And that's what we'll do for that. Now, we're going to check our answers afterward to see if it correlates with what I measured previously. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to come to this left side and we're going to measure a crooked line or a curved line. This is not going to be a straight line, so there's going to be dips. So, listen carefully. I'm going to want you to separate your ruler or your straight edge. Just put a little squiggle in the line. You can do it like this. You see how you have my dash right here, my dash right there. Those are my previous measurements. That's what I measured, that distance right there on the map. Go ahead and separate your paper like this and use the rest of this white paper as your straight edge for your next measurements. All right, come back down to your map. Go ahead and let's pick a leftmost part to start. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna measure this portion right here, this little portion. So you have 2 points, mark them, make sure you go a little bit onto the map, get a little bit of that pencil onto the map. Remember, you can erase, so it doesn't matter. So what you're gonna do is you're now gonna pivot to your next point. You're gonna keep the dot that you made for your second point on your second point, and you're gonna pivot to your third point. Now, since you already have your second point marked, you don't have to mark it again, but go ahead and mark your third point. Now, you're gonna do the same thing that you just did with your second point, except you're gonna keep your third point on your third point, and you're gonna pivot so that you can get your fourth. And you're gonna continue this process until you get to your final point. So we've now marked our fourth point. We're gonna go around. We've now marked our fifth point. We're gonna go around. And we've marked our final point. All right. Now, you should have something that looks like this. So we have 6 points. All right, now we're gonna go and measure that. So bring it down to your scale at the bottom. Line up your first point with 0 and your last point, and it should line up exactly with the 3. So that's gonna be 3 kilometers, or kilometers, my bad, or 3,000 meters, if we break it down. All right, let's drop it to 1 down, put it right on the 0, and we're not gonna make it quite to that second statute mile, so we're gonna drop it, our last point on our right, back down to the 1. And we can kind of see that we're in the middle of the 8 and 9 arena. We haven't quite reached 9, and we just passed 8. I would say by not a little bit less than half, so probably 0.4. So what we're gonna do is we know that it's gonna be 1.8 at least. So we're probably gonna put 1.83, let's say. So 1.83 statute miles. All right, we're gonna drop it down and we're gonna do nautical miles now. Put it on this, put your leftmost point on the 0 and see how we're just in the middle of that 1 and 2 statute mile or nautical miles. Well, we're gonna have to bring it back. So bring your rightmost point back to the 1 and you'll see that your leftmost point is just reaching the 6 mark. So it's gonna be 1.6 nautical miles. So your measurements should look like this. All right, and these are your first ones. So I'm gonna read off what we had, and then I'm gonna read off the answers that I did previously. And then I'm gonna give you guys some time, and I want you to regraph these on your own, and I'm gonna come and check your work. So what we did, that was yesterday. All right, so what we just did. So we got 1.9 kilometers on the straight side. So this is the bottom. So we're checking the work for the bottom. So we got 1.9 and 1,900 meters, right? What I got in here was 1,900 meters and 1.9 kilometers. That's good, we matched, so we got the correct thing. Right here, we got 1.2 statute miles, 1.2 statute miles. We got 1.03 nautical miles, 1.05 nautical miles. That's a small enough point difference to it won't even make a difference. So that's good. That means that we got relatively on the same spot. All right. For our crooked line or our moved line, we have 3 kilometers. So let's go ahead and look. Check our work. 3 kilometers. 3,000 meters, of course, because it's the same measurement. We have 1.83 statute miles, and we have 1.85 statute miles. So we're at a 0.02 difference, not a big deal. That's a very minuscule amount. So 1.6 nautical miles, and we're at 1.6 nautical miles. So as you can see, we got the correct measurements, and it checked out with our work. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some time to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go and check your work, and then we'll do a summary after that. So you guys have some time, do your own work, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll get right to you. All right, now that you guys are done, I've answered your questions, we're going to go ahead and do a summary of what we learned. So we learned different types of maps, different variables, so we know that this is a 1 in 75,000 scaled map. This is a 1 in 50,000 scaled map, more common. This has terrain features. This has less terrain features, and it's a airspace map. This is a terrain map, very different. So we were measuring the airfield in Alabama, Fort Rucker. So we were at the bottom. We were measuring the straight. So on the southmost part of that, we were measuring the straight edge, and then on the left side, we were measuring the curved line. So we learned straight line, we learned curved line, and we also learned the entire encompassing of measuring on the graph. We also learned how to check our work to make sure that we checked it thoroughly and did it twice to make sure that we had the correct numbers and whatnot. We had the proper materials, which we now have back. I've collected all those from you. So we have our straight edges, we've checked your work, we have our pens and pencils back. It's been a good session so far. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to conduct an AAR. So our commander's task was to, of course, have this training and to teach y'all how to measure distance on a map. What did we accomplish? We accomplished how to learn how to measure a straight line on a map from point to point, and we also measured how to do multiple points, or how to do a curved line, or across multiple different routes. We learned how to measure those. We also learned how to measure in different variations, statute miles, kilometers, nautical miles, meters, things like that. We learned how to do that using the scale that's at the bottom of the map. So, do I have any sustains? Do I have any improves? Do I have any remarks or thoughts that you guys may have? Can I have your questions? All right. Now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to let y'all know that I have your test results back right here. You all passed and you are now trained. So we have all of our resources back here. So let's do a quick. Well, we did our AAR. So now I'm going to dismiss you all from the class. Thank you for participating. As you know, I am a specialist farmer. Thank you all for joining us today in today's training.